creative and painting helps you get an insight into that sort of state?
Yeah, for sure it does, because you end up switching off, as I said before, and you end up going into other worlds, and you're not necessarily aware of time, and that's the other controlling factor. Time and money, two things together go hand in hand, don't they?
Yeah. Did you know all this stuff before you painted, or was this information in your brain and then the painting became a way of giving it a space to talk, or do they talk to you while you're painting them and you get the information? How does that work?
I get flashes of inspiration while I'm going through the process of painting. So I'm going through this almost this ceremonial thing that's happening where it's fun and it's playful. But then again, at some point it's detailed and it's observant, and while I'm focusing on the act of creativity, other things are coming to me and giving me insight to what I'm doing. But then saying that, what you said before happens also. You tend to get some sort of inspiration that has to become a painting. It has to be born, in that sense, into this reality. It's one of the hardest things, actually. Anybody who's painting or making imagery, whatever it is, making things, whatever you do, the hardest thing is to get hold of that vision, that dream, that fluidity, and make it materially manifest in this world. Because what was out there, or what was inspired, doesn't always come through in the way that we thought it would do. And that's why dreams are wonderful, because dreams give you the theme, and then how it comes about is left to the imagination, in that sense.
Left up to you. I always ask these questions whenever we've got a speaker like yourself or just somebody that we're interviewing, in terms of tips and advice. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Tips always sounds so trivial, but I want to get people's information or their take on things. If anyone's out there feeling this nudge, this sensation of I've got to be doing something, or there's something being stirred inside of me, but they're not quite sure how to even begin to express it verbally or otherwise, what would you say to somebody who's coming to you saying, I feel something stirring, I don't even know what it is, and to be frank, I'm quite afraid of it because it's so new. What would you be able to say to someone like that?
Have a few early nights. No, stop going down the pub and have a few early nights. No, it's not. There isn't really one answer to that, is there? But I suppose you could say that if you were finding yourself having realizations, and you were kind of working things out, that this world is not what we think it is, and that there's other forces or other realities that are impeding on this world, then maybe it's time to. I mean, there's nothing finer, I suppose, than a whole mass movement of doodlers and scribblers. Maybe I've got this kind of sense of humour where I can just see people going on some sort of peaceful protest and just taking out a sketchbook and just doodling there and then, sitting on the ground. Forget chaining yourself to something. Anyway. So what you could do is what I would do is what I do all the time, is take time out to actually get to know who you are through creativity, which means sometimes you have to access that child within you. And that's why this is an interesting point, because when you look at art, and I've overheard so many people in galleries say, well, that kid could do that, I could do that, looks like a kid's done it, and I've said this in other interviews, and they don't. And the other thing is that if that was the case, then why don't you? If you say you can do that, well go ahead and do it. And the reason why these pieces of art look like that, which goes back to the point you were making, is because those artists were trying to access their innocence, their creative spirit, which comes through in the way in which a child would work. And children are the greatest artists in that sense, because they're accessing this pure,
they draw
eternal,
whatever they want,
absolutely, it's pure imagination, eternal imagination that lives forever, which is another big subject which we could talk about all afternoon, no doubt. The imagination is the nearest thing we could probably get to understanding who we really are, and to this infinite sea of consciousness, this what a lot of people choose to call God. It's my own personal view, but it's just as valid as any other view in that sense. So, but the imagination is very powerful, and it's what can turn this reality around. It's what can reshape the world. It's also what can give us the incentive to leave the fairground. Because, you know, while ever you're being distracted and while ever you've got all these things going on around you, and while you're trying to plaster up the cracks and the, you know, and the this game ain't working. Oh, it happens to be the global casino stock market game. It's not working. Let's invest a lot more money to get this back on track. While ever that's going on, you're not necessarily being encouraged to use your own imagination to find out another way in which you can actually invent a new structure or a new type of currency or whatever it is that would benefit humanity rather than enslave humanity.
Even a new fairground.
Another fairground,
based on different principles and rules. Do you have any other insight through your creative processes and what you've done and sort of letting your mind be free? Do you think that this could help change the world if more people, as I said, dedicated more time just being creative? So again, instead of just watching TV, that they actually paint, drew, did whatever. Being active in the world, you mean? Yeah, absolutely. There's that lovely story, isn't there, of I've said it in a couple of talks, that story of the man who planted trees by the writer Jean Genot, the French writer. And if anybody who's ever read it, it's a wonderful story, and very briefly, it's about exactly that. It's about using your creativity and your imagination. At the height of the First World War, when that was starting in Europe, the writer talked in his story of a guy, a shepherd wanderer, that he got to know, that spent all of his time and energy planting trees. Wow.
While other men were going off to fight in a war that had been manufactured elsewhere. Sure. And what he did with all of his energy was plant trees, and eventually the trees became forests, and the forests allowed other life and other people to move to that area, and eventually communities settled and houses were built, and many hundreds of years later that was a thriving area, just because one guy decided every morning to go out with an acorn and plant trees rather than fight in a war.
Well, and that's just somewhat more powerful than, as I say, going to find one getting killed for someone else's agenda.
Well, yeah, I mean, some of the most simplest things are the most powerful things, aren't they? Even the smallest person could change the direction of the world. I love that line from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that's where it's from.
Where are all the hobbits then?
Yes, where are all the hobbits?
Apparently they're not far away. What we don't need is a load of people with banners and placards around Frodo as he takes the ring back.
Yeah.
If you understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
actually quite profound in a low way.
Don't protest around Frodo.
Just distract the forces enough to allow everybody to get on with what they need to do to free their spirit, you know. So, yeah.
Oh, destroy the ring.
Yeah, destroy. Well, yeah, only in the book, in the fiction.
Yeah.
Well, Neil, thank you so much for your time, and we really appreciate it. And this has been the Conscious Mind Events production. And hopefully we'll see you sometime in the future, because we'd love to do this again and see what you're up to.
Yeah, thank you.
And do you have a website anyone could go to?
Yeah, it's the usual neilhague.com, www.neilhague.com.
Great. And if you want to see more of your work, where do we do that? On your website?
Exactly, on the website.
Great. Because I think they tell a story and they're quite powerful in their own right, so it'd be good to use that as inspiration.
Thank you.